Allahu, 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 Allah, Allahu, Allahu.
A question so commonly asked: if God knows that people will not succeed in the hereafter, then why did He create them? Why not just leave them in non-existence? Would that not have been better and more merciful for them? Many, as a result of misunderstanding this very subject, conclude that God does not exist because they cannot reconcile. They cannot reconcile a merciful God on the one hand and equate that with His knowledge that beings will not succeed in the hereafter on the other hand. Now here's the point. Many fail to see the clear false assumption and false presupposition that is hidden in the very question. The false assumption is based on the following: the creation of humankind is either good or evil, a favorable act or a calamitous one, but it cannot be both. They are two complete opposites, like existence and non-existence. If you have existence, this by default excludes non-existence. One of these cannot be accepted but to the exclusion of the other. So it's one or the other. If one establishes the creation of beings as a good thing, then it eliminates it from being an evil act. Look at it from the viewpoint of existence and non-existence. There is no question that one's existence is better than one's non-existence. We look to prolong life through the mechanisms such as exercise, medicine, because we indeed value existence. If non-existence were better, then suicide would not be perceived in the negative way that it is, but it is regarded as a negative thing. And the natural inclination is to avoid destruction and avoid loss of life. It would be irrational and illogical to argue that existence or creation is not a good thing. This therefore excludes our creation as being one of evil or calamitous. Having understood creation therefore as a good thing, if the question is reframed, it would go something like this: why did God do a good thing that is an evil thing? Let me say that again. Why did God do a good thing that is an evil thing? As we said, one cannot have a good thing that is simultaneously evil, like existence and non-existence. It's absurd. The very question is absurd and a contradiction in terms and reality. And it assumes something that is false but not clear right away from the outset. The point is, knowing something in advance does not alter the act of creation from being a good thing. Knowledge cannot transform the act from what it was and is, namely a favorable act. Knowing does not change that reality. Now there's a flow-on point from these points that we've mentioned, and it's this: evil that exists in the world does not amount to the non-existence of a thing. You see, the Prophet Muhammad, the peace and blessings of God be upon him, he lost his mother at a young age. He lost his father prior to birth, his grandfather at a young age, his uncle after the age of 40, his children, namely his boys during prophethood. He lost 2 wives in his lifetime, and many of his companions passed away. Yet his teachings emphasize emphatically the mercy and compassion of the cosmic designer, a man who suffered and endured so much suffering in his life, yet he emphasizes this point of mercy and compassion of the cosmic designer is extraordinary. There is certainly suffering in the world, but that cannot undo a truth. Now further questions no doubt arise, such as, why did God not make the world without evil? Why did God allow evil to occur? These are questions that certainly will be detailed in the upcoming class, but it's important to make one final point before finishing this recording. Regardless of one's misunderstanding or failure to comprehend an aspect of an idea, it cannot deny the reality of a truth if it exists. In fact, it is irrational to reject the existence of a thing, like God, based on the existence of evil or suffering in the world. If something exists in actuality, but I have failed to comprehend it, how can this logically amount to the non-existence of a thing altogether? Even Stephen Hawking, in his famous text, The Grand Design, he states, "The goldfish view is not the same as our own, but goldfish could still formulate scientific laws governing the motion of the objects they observe outside the bowl." Then he cites an example, and he says, because of the distortion, a moving object that we as humans may observe to be moving in a straight line would be observed by the goldfish to move along a curved path. Nevertheless, he says, the goldfish could still formulate scientific laws from their distorted frame of reference that would always hold true and that would enable them to make predictions about the future motion of objects outside the bowl. Their laws would be more complicated than the laws in our frames, but simplicity, he says, is a matter of taste. Consequently, it is irrational to reject the existence of a thing like God based on the existence of evil in the world. If something exists in actuality, but I don't understand it, how can this logically amount to the non-existence of a thing in its entirety? So despite a skewed understanding of utter failure to understand the points about the existence of evil, it cannot ever result in the absurd outcome of a thing not existing. The cosmic architect no doubt exists,